Okay, I am back, ladies and gentlemen. I'd said at the end of the last one that it was the end of chapter 3, but that was really the end of chapter 2. And now I'm recording chapter 3 for your listening pleasure. So, as you remember, they were just getting off the train in Manhattan, and so they were um, going to head to the Metropolitan Museum. As soon as they reached the sidewalk, Jamie made his first decision as treasurer. Remember, Claudia appointed him that. We'll walk from here to the museum. Walk? Claudia asked. Do you realize that it's over 40 blocks from here? Well, how much does the bus cost? The bus? Claudia exclaimed. Who said anything about taking a bus? I want to take a taxi. Claudia, Jamie said, you are quietly out of your mind. How can you even think of a taxi? We have no more allowance, no more income. You can't be extravagant any longer. It's not my money we're spending, it's our money. We're in this together, remember? You're right, Claudia answered. A taxi is expensive. The bus is cheaper. It's only 20 cents each. We'll take the bus. Only 20 cents each? That's 40 cents total. No bus. We'll walk. We'll wear out 40 cents worth of shoe leather, Claudia mumbled. You sure we have to walk? Positive, Jamie answered. Which way do we go? Sure you won't change your mind? The look on Jamie's face gave her the answer. She sighed. No wonder Jamie had more than $24. He was a gambler and a cheapskate. If that's the way he wants to be, she thought, I'll never ask him again. I'll never again ask him for bus fare. I'll suffer and never, never let him know about it. But he'll regret it when I simply collapse from exhaustion. I'll collapse quietly. We'd better walk up Madison Avenue, she told her brother. I'll see too many ways to spend our precious money if we walk on Fifth Avenue. All those gorgeous stores. She and Jamie did not walk exactly side by side. Her violin case kept bumping him, and he began to walk a few steps ahead of her. As Claudia's pace slowed down from what she was sure was accumulation of carbon dioxide in her system, she had not yet learned about muscle fatigue in science class, even though she was in sixth grade honors class. Jamie's pace quickened. Soon he was walking a block and a half ahead of her. They would meet when a red light held him up. At one of the mutual stops, Claudia instructed Jamie to wait for her on the corner of Madison and 80th Street, for there they would turn left to Fifth Avenue. She found Jamie standing on the corner, probably one of the most civilized street corners in the whole world, consulting a compass and announcing that when they turned left, they would be heading due northeast. Claudia was tired and cold at the tips. Her fingers, her toes, her nose were all cold, while the rest of her was perspiring under the weight of her winter clothes. She never liked feeling either very hot or very cold. She hated feeling both at the same time. Head due northwest, she mimicked. Can't you simply say turn right or turn left as everyone else does? Who do you think you are, Daniel Boone? I'll bet no one's used a compass in Manhattan since Henry Hudson. You guys should check to see who Henry Hudson is. Jamie didn't answer. He briskly rounded the corner of 80th Street and made his hand into a sun visor as he peered down the street. Claudia needed an argument. Her internal heat, the heat of anger, was cooking that accumulated carbon dioxide. It would soon explode out of her if she didn't give it some vent. Don't you realize that we must try to be inconspicuous? Now I'm having trouble saying the words, she demanded of her brother. What's inconspicuous? Unnoticeable. Jamie looked all around. I think you're brilliant, Claude. New York is a great place to hide out. No one notices no one. Anyone, Claudia corrected. She looked at Jamie and found him smiling. She softened. She had to agree with her brother. She was brilliant. New York was a great place, and being called brilliant had cooled her down. The bubbles dissolved. By the time they reached the museum, she no longer needed an argument. As they entered the main avenue on Fifth Avenue, or the main door on Fifth Avenue, the guard clicked off two numbers on his people counter. Guards always count the people going into the museum, but they don't count the people going out. My chauffeur, and this is Mrs. Basil Frankweiler saying this, because it's in parentheses. My chauffeur, Sheldon, has a friend named Morris who is a guard at the Metropolitan. I've kept Sheldon busy getting information from Morris. It's not hard to do since Morris loves to talk about his work. He'll tell about anything except security. Ask him a question he won't or can't answer, and he says, I'm not at liberty to tell. Security. Now we're back to the Claudia and James story. By the time Claudia and Jamie reached their destination, it was 1 o'clock, and the museum was busy. On any ordinary Wednesday, over 26,000 people came. They spread out over 20 acres of floor space. They roamed from room to room to room to room. On Wednesday come the gentle old ladies who are using time before the Broadway matinee begins. They walk around in pairs. You can tell they are a set because they wear matching pairs of orthopedic shoes, the kind that lace on the sides. Tourists visit museums on Wednesdays. You can tell them because the men carry cameras and the women look as if their feet hurt. They wear high heeled shoes. I always say those that wear them deserve them. And there are art students any day of the week. They also walk around in pairs. You can tell they are a set because they carry matching black sketchbooks. You've missed all this, Soxenberg. Shame on you. This is Mrs. Frankweiler saying this. You've never set your well polished shoe inside that museum. More than 250,000 people come to the museum every week. Come from Mankato, Kansas, where they have no museums, and from Paris, France, where they have lots. And they all enter free of charge because that's what the museum is: great and large and wonderful and free to all, and complicated. Complicated enough even for Jamie Kincaid. So no one thought it was strange that a boy and a girl, each carrying a book bag and an instrument case, and who would normally be in school, were visiting a museum. After all, about 1,000 school children visit the museum every day. The guard at the entrance merely stopped them, told them to check their cases and book bags. A museum rule: no bags, food, or umbrellas. None that the guard could see. Rule or no rule, Claudia decided it was a good idea. A big sign in the checking room said no tipping, so she knew Jamie couldn't object. Jamie did object. However, he pulled his sister aside and asked how she expected him to change into his pajamas. His pajamas, he explained, were rolled into a tiny ball in his trumpet case. Claudia told him that she fully expected to check out at 4:30. They would then leave the museum by the front door. Within 5 minutes, would re-enter from the back through the door that leads from the parking lot to the Children's Museum. After all, didn't that solve all their problems? They would be seen leaving the museum, they would be free of their baggage while they scouted around for a place to spend the night, and at 3, it was free. Claudia checked her coat as well as her packages. Jamie was condemned to walking around in his ski jacket. When the jacket was on and zippered, it covered that exposed strip of skin. Besides, the Orlon plush lining did a great deal to muffle his $24 rattle. Claudia would never have permitted herself to become so overheated, but Jamie liked perspiration, a little bit of dirt, and complications. Right now, however, he wanted lunch. Claudia wished to eat in the restaurant on the main floor, but Jamie wished to eat in the snack bar downstairs. He thought it was less glamorous, but cheaper, and as chancellor of the checks book, the money, as holder of the veto power, and as tightwad of the year, he got his wish. Claudia didn't really mind too much when she saw the snack bar. It was plain but clean. Jamie was dismayed at the prices. They had $28.61 when they went into the cafeteria, and only $27.11 when they came out still feeling hungry. Claudia, he demanded, did you know food would cost so much? Now aren't you glad we didn't take a bus? Just think, they ate for just pennies. It would cost more of that now, wouldn't it? Claudia was no such thing. She was not glad they hadn't taken the bus. She was merely furious that her parents and Jamie's too had been so stingy that she had been away from home for less than one whole day and was already worried about survival money. She chose not to answer Jamie. Jamie didn't notice. He was completely wrapped up in problems of finances. Do you know I could get one of the guards to play me a game of war? Or do you think I could get one of the guards to play me a game of war? He asked. That's ridiculous, Claudia said. Why? I brought my cards along, a whole deck. Claudia said, inconspicuous is exactly the opposite of that. Even a guard at the Metropolitan who sees thousands of people every day would remember a boy who played him a game of cards. Jamie's pride was involved. I cheated Bruce through all second grade and through all third grade so far, and he still isn't wise. Jamie, is that how you win? Jamie bowed his head and answered, well, yeah. Besides, Bruce had trouble keeping straight the jacks, the queens, and the kings. He gets all mixed up. Why do you cheat your best friend? I sure don't know. I guess I like complications. Well, quit worrying about money now. Worry about where we're going to hide while we're locking up this place. They took a map from the information stand for free. Claudia selected where they would hide during a dangerous time immediately after the museum was closed to the public and before all the guards and helpers left. She decided that she would go to the ladies' room. Jamie would go to the men's room just before the museum closed. Go to the one near the restaurant on the main floor, she told Jamie. I'm not spending a night in the men's room. All that tile, it's cold. And besides, men's rooms make noise sound louder, and I rattle enough now. Claudia explained to Jamie that she was to enter a booth in the men's room, and then stand on it, she continued. Stand on it? Stand on what? Jamie demanded. You know, Claudia insisted. Stand on it. You mean stand on the toilet? Jamie needed everything spelled out. Well, what else would I mean? What else is there in the booth in the men's room? And keep your head down, and keep the door to the booth slightly open, Claudia finished. Feet up, head down, door open. Why? Because I'm certain that's when they check the ladies' room and the men's room, they peek under the door, peek only to see if there are feet. We must stay there until we're sure all the people and guards have gone home. How about the night watchman? Jamie asked. Claudia displayed a lot more confidence than she really felt. Oh, there'll be a night watchman, I'm sure. But he mostly walks around the roof trying to keep people from breaking in. We'll already be in. They call what he walks a catwalk. We'll learn his habits soon enough. Soon enough. They must mostly use burglar alarms in the inside. We'll just never touch a window, a door, or a valuable painting. Now let's find a place to spend the night. They wandered back to the rooms of fine French and English furniture. It was here Claudia knew for sure that she had chosen the most elegant place in the world to hide. She wanted to sit on the lounge chair that had been made for Marie Antoinette, or at least sit at her writing table, but signs everywhere said not to step on the platform, and some of the chairs had silken ropes strung across the arms to keep you from even trying to sit down. She would have to wait until after lights out to be Marie Antoinette. At last she found a bed that considered perfectly wonderful, and she told Jamie they would spend the night there. The bed had a tall canopy, supported by an ornately carved headboard at one end and by two gigantic posts at the other. I'm familiar with this bed, Saxonburg. It's an enormous and fussy as mine. I once considered donating my bed to a museum, but Mr. Untermeyer gave them this one first. I was somewhat relieved when he did. Now I can enjoy my bed without feeling guilty because the museum didn't have one. Besides, I'm not that fond of donating things, said Mrs. Frankweiler. Claudia had always known that she was meant for such fine things. Jamie, on the other hand, thought that running away from home to sleep in just another bed was really no challenge at all. He, James, would rather sleep on the bathroom floor, after all. Claudia then pulled him around to the foot of the bed and told him to read what the card said. Jamie read, "Please do not step on the platform." Claudia knew he was being difficult on purpose. Therefore, she read for him. State bed. Scene of the alleged murder of Amy Robsart, first wife of Lord Robert Dudley, later Earl of. Jamie couldn't control his smile. He said, "You know, Claude, for a sister and a fuss budget, you're not bad." Claudia replied, "You know, Jamie, for a brother and a cheapskate, you're not bad." Something happened at precisely that moment. Both Claudia and Jamie tried to explain to me about it, but they couldn't quite. I know what happened, though. I never told them. Having words and explanations for everything is too modern. I especially wouldn't tell Claudia. She has too many explanations already. What happened was they became a team, a family of two. There had been times before they ran away when they acted like a team, but those were different from feeling like a team. Becoming a team didn't mean the end of their arguments, but it did mean the arguments became part of the adventure, became discussions, not threats. To an outsider, the arguments would appear to be the same because feeling like part of a team is something that happens invisibly. You might call it caring. You could even call it love. And it is very rarely indeed that it happens to two people at the same time, especially a brother and a sister who had always spent more time with activities than they had with each other. They followed their plan, checked out the museum, and re entered through a back door. When the guard at the entrance told them to check their instrument cases, Claudia told them they were just passing through on their way to meet their mother. The guard let them go, knowing that if they went very far, some other guard would stop them again. However, they managed to avoid other guards for the remaining minutes until the bell rang. The bell meant that the museum was closing in 5 minutes. And then they entered the booths of the restrooms. They waited in the booths until 5:30, when they felt certain everyone was gone. Then they came out and met. 5:30 in winter is dark, but nowhere seems as dark as a metropolitan museum of art. The ceilings are so high that they fill up a lot of darkness. It seemed to Jamie and Claudia as they walked through miles of corridors. Fortunately, the corridors were wide and they were spared bumping into things. At last they came to the hall of the English Renaissance. Jamie quickly threw himself upon the bed, forgetting that it was only about 6 o'clock, and thinking he would be so exhausted he would immediately fall asleep. He didn't. He was hungry. That was one reason he didn't fall asleep immediately. He was uncomfortable, too, so he got up from the bed, changed into his pajamas, and got back into bed. He felt a little better. Claudia had already changed into her pajamas. She, too, was hungry, and she, too, was uncomfortable. How could so elegant and romantic a bed smell so musty? Ugh, P.U. She would have liked to wash everything in a good, strong, sweet smelling detergent. As Jamie got into bed, he still felt uneasy, and it wasn't because he was worried about getting caught. Claudia had planned everything so well that he didn't concern himself about that. The strange way he felt had little to do with strange places in which they were sleeping. Claudia felt it too. Jamie lay there thinking. Finally, realization came. "You know, Claude," he whispered, "I didn't brush my teeth." Claudia answered, "Well, Jamie, you can't always brush after every meal." They both laughed quietly. "Tomorrow," Claudia reassured him, "we'll even be better organized." It was much earlier than her bedtime at home, but still Claudia felt tired. She thought she might have iron deficiency anemia, tired blood. Perhaps the pressures of everyday stress and strain had gotten her down. Maybe she was lightheaded from hunger. Her brain cells were being robbed at vitally needed oxygen for good growth, and oh, she shouldn't have worried. It had been an unusually busy day, a busy and unusual day. So she lay there, a great quiet of the museum next to the warm quiet of her brother, and allowed the soft stillness to settle around them. A comforter of quiet. The silence seeped from their heads to their souls and into their souls. They stretched out and relaxed. Instead of oxygen and stress, Claudia thought now of hushed and quiet words. Glide, fur, banana. peace. Even the footsteps of the night watchman added only an accented quarter note to the silence that had become a lullaby. They lay perfectly still even long after he passed. Then they whispered good night to each other and fell asleep. They were quiet sleepers, and hidden by the heaviness of darkness, they were easily not discovered. And then Mrs. Um, Frankweiler says, "Of course, Saxonburg, the draperies of that bed helped too." So that is done with chapter 3. So we will touch base again when we do chapter 4 later. Bye.